Jason Lee's like, one day this hot girl's gonna be walking by and you're gonna check her out, and then you're gonna notice that she checked her out too, and you're gonna be heartbroken, man. You're gonna be just gutted. And I was like, but like, why? Can't you guys just like fist bump and move on with your day?
Yeah.
Like,
hurt your feelings when I say SZA is sexy.
Yeah, like we've done that.
We do that on the regular.
Like, oh, John Krasinski with a beard is hot, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah.
I did reference him and Emily Blunt. So I'm glad you brought it up too.
Like,
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
hi, Karina.
Hi, Zax.
Hi, Andrew.
hi, Zax.
Okay.
Hi, Karina.
Thank you.
Okay, well, so this is a bonus video. We're just adding a little addendum to our bisexuality video because we're coming at it from the female perspective. And fortunately, Karina's partner, Andrew, is a bi boy. So we're
Hello.
going to talk to him. Hello again.
Hello.
So how are things?
How are things? Things are well.
That's good.
Oh, okay.
No, you. Obviously, I'm not.
Look, I don't know how this works.
That's fine. That's okay. Neither do I. I guess we'll give you a chance to kind of talk about yourself. So I guess our first question is, how do you identify?
Well, I am a cisgender male. Never really questioned that. I'm bisexual. I have a strong preference towards women. I guess by that I just mean I'm a lot more picky with my guys. That sounds bad.
That's okay. So one of the things we talked about last night was how we define bisexuality, and I think everybody kind of has a different definition of it, especially people who are bi. So would you be okay giving your definition of it, like what it means for you personally?
Sure. For me, bisexuality is largely a spectrum, if that makes any sense. Like I said earlier, I have a preference towards women over men. Some people have a preference towards men. Some people don't have a preference either way. And that's kind of a sliding scale, in my opinion. Far as bisexuality and what it means, I'm of the camp that bisexuality and pansexuality are kind of the same thing.
Okay.
Because bisexuality covers pretty much whatever. I guess you could argue that bisexuality can be exclusive, whereas pansexuality by nature isn't, but I'm not really here to debate that.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, they're more or less the same. If you want to call it pansexuality, sure. I don't take any issue with that. That's just not really what it means to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about. Because, for me, I basically use pan and bisexuality interchangeably for myself. It just sort of depends on, I don't know. I guess bi seems is more easy and straightforward. I think more people get it. But, when I first learned what pansexual was, I was like, ooh, I want to use that more.
This one sounds fancy. I like this one.
Yeah.
Bisexuality is far more easy for people understand, get them into the groove of understanding what it is.
Yeah.
As opposed to, tossing them into all this terminology, head first.
Yeah. I think, okay, it's and this is kind of an object, but I feel like some people think that labels in general can be kind of pretentious. When if you're oh, I'm pansexual, it's okay, what are you trying to prove? That kind of disdain. Do you have what are your feelings about labels in general?
If you want to call yourself something, that's fine. A lot of human humans take a lot of comfort in tribalism, which is that might be a weird word, but you know what I mean, grouping themselves with like-minded individuals,
like having a community,
or community. So I get it. Personally, for me, sexuality isn't something that should be subject to tribalism. I personally don't care. I call myself bi because that's the easiest way for people to understand where I stand without having to get into a whole, paragraph long explanation.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a spectrum. So some people find it constricting. Others find it to be a neat little box that they fit into that makes them feel comfortable. Both of those are fine. I think there are things that I think most things don't really need labels because it tends to separate people along lines that they ought not to be separated by. If that makes any sense?
No, I get that.
Like we were talking last night about like gatekeeping with labels and like how, like you said, a lot of people take a lot of comfort in having a label, but people tend to get really overprotective of those labels, and then that like creates infighting, and it's really reductive and sad.
Yeah, I think it's like, on one hand, like I don't think anyone would really argue like the usefulness of labels, like it just gets the point across, people understand it, but at the same time I think people can put too much emphasis on the label where like now it's not really clarifying everything. Now it's like I have to have like this dictionary to know like what you're going by and what they're going by. Like when we did her demisexuality video, we ended up getting into like, I forget what all the terms were, but there was this whole subset of like asexuality and like fictional sexuality, where it's like I'm only attracted to cartoon characters and I'm only attracted to live action reenactments, and like I'm only attracted to like ghosts and like all these different things. And it's like I don't think those labels are particularly helpful anymore for anybody.
There's a point where I'm like, how to phrase this delicately.
There's a point where things are sometimes too niche that they don't particularly need a name for it. Is that what you mean?
But yeah, when someone comes to me, like, if someone came to you and was like, hey, I'm only attracted to anime girls, you would kind of see that person and be like, hey, are you good?
Like, yeah.
When it, like, what is demisexuality?
It's under like the ace spectrum. It's basically like you only feel sexual attraction to somebody after you make a like emotional bond with them first.
Yeah. See, in my opinion, like that, I think I that's what I thought it was, but I wanted to confirm. To me, that's kind of just normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think personally, and this is getting to my morals and ethics, which isn't what we're talking about. I'm kind of like, that's just normal. In my opinion, it's healthy for you to, really only want to initiate physical intimacy with someone when you're, familiar with
comfy with them.
Yeah, no, I get that. And that was kind of like, I kind of was in the same boat, and like the more I talked about it with Rogue, and I was like, and I think that this is still like a hard line to really understand unless like you just experience it yourself, because like I think I still only really like fully get it on paper, but like it's like, because it is part of the ace spectrum, so it's like there's like no physical attraction without the emotional bond. It's not like, so it's different in that way, I guess. So it's more, it's like where I think other people, like a lot of people would be like, well, I don't just hook up with anybody. That's not what it is.
It's literally like me, for example. I would never, hook up with someone well, I have a girlfriend, but that's
me.
separating my monogamy from everything else. I would never hook up with someone without getting to know them and becoming a rather good friend with them at the very, very least.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still be able to be like, damn, that person is attractive to me sexually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas a demisexual person doesn't have that until.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, do you want to tell us, like, when did you, like, your initial incident? Like, when did you start finding out you were bi, or was it just like from the jump you kind of knew?
Bro, I could not tell you. I am not one of those people who.
You're not me watching Sailor Moon as a child and going, girls for D.
Like anybody else's experiences, I'm not going to invalidate that, but I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to tell you that I always knew, because I didn't, and I'm not going to tell you that there was this one like aha, like eureka moment where I was like, oh, I like men, because there wasn't. Like I couldn't even pinpoint like a realization. It was just kind of like noticing more and more that, like, you know, there are certain men that I'm like, damn, all right, cool. You know, I'm attracted to that.
Do you think like you grew up, or like the people around you were just like really just like pretty accepting, so it wasn't like you never thought there was gonna be any like backlash for being attracted to men too?
My mother, God rest her soul, was always a very I understand to use the word now, but a very, very liberal person, very socially progressive. Whereas my father, generally a very conservative man, and this isn't me like talking mess on my father. I love him very dearly, and he's been very accepting and understanding. So educated man, career military, traveled all over the world, seen all different types of people. So even I've lived in Texas for 16 years. Since I was 7 years old. I'm 23 now. 16 years. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not. If I was good at math, I'd be doing something else. But even living in Texas for 16 years, I've never really felt in any sort of real danger, or like I wouldn't be accepted or what have you. Like I came out to my father, and of course, there was, I think I was 16 at the time, and he was kind of like, we all have question, but you're young, give it some time before you start calling yourself. And at the time, being 16, I was like, oh, my old man's just being a drag. But I understand what he was saying. He was like, there are people who aren't going to, deal with that and might treat you badly. So just make sure before you start labeling yourself as such. And I remember, this is a few years ago now, like we were talking about it, and he was like, you're my son, I love you, nothing will ever change that. If you come home with a guy, I'm gonna be a little bit weird for the first few hours. I'll be good, I'm just letting you know. And I'm like, yeah, I get you, Pop, no worries. So in a very long answer to a short question, not really. Like, have I encountered homophobic people? Yes. One, has it particularly bothered me? No. Two, have I ever felt as though I was in legitimate, like, danger? Also no. Then again, that might come from the fact that I'm a relatively big guy. We're not gonna get into my personal politics on self-defense and stuff, but no, is the short answer.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Just because, like, Rogue was kind of in the same boat you were in, I think, where just, like, you just sort of worked into figuring out your sexuality. And then I think me on the more extreme end was really trying not to be attracted to anyone other than boys. And I think, Karina, a little bit on your family's end, sort of.
Yeah, the initial like shock, like the same thing with you, Andrew. The like, are you sure? Like maybe wait a little bit before you like put a name to this and set it in stone. And like I get like as a young person, I was like, wow, this hurts, and like it still does. Like when I think about it, but like when I really think about it, I understand that it was this aspect of like, you know, really make sure that this is who you are, because if you're out and you're telling people this, it can put you in a situation that could potentially be dangerous, that could like put you in harm's way. So like be sure about this. Which like, you know, like it could have been handled differently, but like, you know,
yeah, precisely.
It is like, what it is.
Was it the best way? No. Was it done out of like a place of care and love that was ultimately in my case,
a little bit?
I'm not going to speak for you. Like for me, it wasn't ultimately harmful to my relationship with, you know, my father or anything like that. And I understand, like I get where he's coming from. So I'm not bothered by that at this point.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. What is the next question?
Does being attracted to multiple genders make things easier in any way, or does it make things more difficult?
I mean, no, I guess.
Okay.
I not really. I mean, like I said, I'm very particular about my men, and you know, most. It's going to sound somewhat problematic. Most LGBT men that I've come into contact with are not those men. So I suppose like I've never really had opportunities to pursue relationships with other men, which I'm not too torn up about it, honestly. It's not like I feel like I'm missing out on anything. And as for, you know, women, I'm an overweight young man in my 20s. I'm doing just about as well as anybody could guess. So not really.
You pulled me, so
yeah. Like I was about to say, I pulled Karina. She's out of my league, so I'm doing pretty good.
Well, like I kind of, and maybe this is out of line. So we're both bi. This is a straight presenting relationship, but we're both a little gay. Has there ever been a point in our relationship where like you've been like with me being like a queer person as well?
What do you mean?
Like we had a discussion last night about
there was this
like
episode of Grownish where the bi character who like they really shove it in your face how bi this character is. Yeah, like she's just like that's what she does is be bi all the time. And so
all women do is eat hot chip, charge their phone, be bisexual and lie.
And then but then she starts and like throughout like I don't know, I think whenever this happened, but like she's like, it's so hard to date because nobody accepts that I'm bi. They either fetishize me or they're grossed out by me. I can't get a win. So she starts going out with this guy who's also bi. Sorry for the people who just watched the other video are hearing this again. But
skip ahead 5 seconds to miss the plot overview.
Yeah, but then she dates this guy who's bi, and then once she finds out that he's bi too, at first, if I remember correctly, it's like great, but then it hits her, she's like, actually, I kind of only want to be the bi one. It just weirds me out to think of you with other guys. And he's like, you know you're being like biphobic and bad, right? She's like, yeah, but like I can't help how I feel. Bye.
I can't help how you react.
Yeah, like
so context understood. No, like I like. I feel I'm still not understanding the question. Is it like oh, because you're bi, like if this is a stereotype, like I feel like you might have more of a chance of cheating on me or something like that?
Yeah, like now the whole world's competition.
Nah. Okay. I won. I'm here.
Okay, good.
There is no like here. and this, like, the questions, like, this is like another, like, getting into one of the questions. I won't go forward too much, but like, I'm like, we've agreed upon a monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
So the fact that, like, there's, like, what, 51% of the world's population is women. Even if I were straight, that's a lot of people that I could, quote unquote, potentially cheat on you with. It doesn't, like, oh, okay, so there's like 50% more people, whatever. I don't view it that way. Because that's an extremely, like, weird and paranoid way to go about
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not the least paranoid person in the world. I will tell you that, but I'm pretty secure in my relationships, friendships, romantic, whatever they be. So no, it's never really bothered me at all.
No. I think it is interesting because, like, I don't know why, like, lots of people, like, have that weird mentality, and it's like, one, like, you either trust your partner or you don't. Like, that's no way to live. Like, end it if you're paranoid. But then I think also because, like, this movie, I don't know, but like, Kevin Smith did this movie Chasing Amy. I don't know if either of you guys saw it, where it's all about Ben Affleck trying to go out with, is it Jennifer Tilly? It might be someone else. I don't know. But she's a lesbian, and he, like, wears her down into giving him a chance, basically.
That's
and then
gross.
it's like, okay, like, I don't know, like, it is, there is, like, there's a romance that builds there, but, like, he just keeps chasing her. So then, and his best friend is Jason Lee, and then this movie was so annoying to me. But anyway, once they get together, he's like, Jason Lee's like, you know, one day this hot girl's gonna be walking by and you're gonna check her out, and then you're gonna notice that she checked her out too, and you're gonna be heartbroken, man. You're gonna be just gutted. And I was like, but, like, why? Can't you guys just, like, fist bump and move on with your day?
Yeah.
Like,
hurt your feelings when I say SZA is sexy.
Yeah, like, we've done that.
We do that on the regular.
Like, oh, John Krasinski with a beard is hot, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah.
I did reference him and Emily Blunt. So I'm glad you brought it up too.
Like, a couple of extremely attractive individuals, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are. Would I cheat on Karina with either one of them? No.
yeah,
That's your mistake. You're telling me if Emily Blunt approached you and was like, Andrew, you're looking quite lovely this evening, you wouldn't be like, what are you doing?
No, I'm a man of God, not a degenerate.
Okay.
I think me and Bob
I
have
appreciate the commitment.
Me and Bob have a few agreements. If we ever get invited to a three-way or orgy and we don't have time to text the other one, we gotta just go for it, because who knows when that's gonna happen again. The other is
the text didn't deliver. I'm sorry.
like, look, like, well, because I feel we gotta feel, because, like, on one hand, I feel like both of us would like to, like, have the opportunity to watch if we could, but I understand, like, these people who propositioned us for the three-way might not, like, be into, like, the voyeur aspect too, and, like, that's a big ask. Like, I'll be respectful of that, but, you know, a threesome's still a threesome, or, like, fivesome. But then the other, and this, we were on a stream like a while ago, and we made this pact with everybody on that stream, is that if any of us get the chance to do it with a sex ghost, we gotta do it. Hopefully we can send the sex ghost everybody else's way, but for sure we have to go for it ourselves.
Yeah, see?
As the witch here, I would not recommend having sex with a ghost.
Yes. Yeah, that's, as the Christian, that's a demon. Don't do it.
That's a spooky demon that got into your
that
house.
is a whole demon. You will be damned. But, but
That's the Fae.
But see, like, I'm like, nah, like, it's just not something I have any desire for. I'm good, you know. No, you know, I don't personally, not my thing. I don't know why you'd want to, but I'm not gonna, whatever. It's not
Yum yuck.
Like it's not my relationship, not my business,
not my circus, not my monkeys.
But personally, no, thank you. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Let me see in my notes. So I guess kind of like in your discovery process, I guess, or even now, like, are there any like bi or like other queer characters or like figures or people that you know that have made an impact in you just being you, or is it like, I don't know anybody?
No, I don't really know anybody. Like as far as inspirations to me, this is gonna sound like it goes off on a little bit of a tangent, but people like my father, like my grandfather, some like I know Percy Jackson isn't queer, but like
yes, he is.
Okay. But I value my masculinity rather highly. I think it is a somewhat important quality, and one that is healthy masculinity. I'll clarify, and one that is, I think, a bit lacking in our society. And I think there's a kind of push in the LGBT community to kind of for LGBT men to kind of reject their masculinity, if that makes any sense. Like I've been told, I think Karina was the first one who said this, is that I'm the straightest queer man you've ever met. I'm gonna like really out myself as being from the South. Like I like fishing. I like hunting. I like guns. I like a lot of traditionally masculine interests. And I think an important part of my journey, if you want to call it that, has been realizing that's okay. That I don't have to reject the fact that I'm like I can be a masculine man and still be queer.
Yeah.
Do you think part of this, like, not inability to answer the question, but like why it's maybe hard to answer that question is because when, like, not to make this a media critique, but like, when we see like queer men portrayed in media or just like in kind of any space, it is this one way of being a queer man. It's like, it's very this, that, like, it's never like,
no, go on.
You can just be you.
Yeah, precisely. It's I've always said that being a queer man is like a very small part of who I am, and a rather private one at that. Like, I don't hide it, but it's not something that I make part of my outward personality. It's not something I care about at every moment of the day. And I feel like most queer representation, and I'm doing finger quotes, in the media is borderline stereotype at best. It's a lot of it is as backwards as this sounds, because it's about homophobia and wanting to suppress those, like Brokeback Mountain, gay cowboys. I'm like, yeah, okay. But a lot of media regarding queer people, especially queer men, is very much this I don't know a better word for it than stereotype. The you have to
you have to do it this way.
Yeah, you have to do it this way. You can't be masculine, you can't be a man trademark and still be queer.
Yeah, I think that is interesting for like a lot of reasons. Because like on one hand, like we were talking about this a little bit, but like now hearing your perspective, I guess kind of like solidifies it a little bit more. So like in media, like if someone's bi, it's always like a girl because like ooh, guys like to look at that. And if like and like there'll be gay men, but I feel like part of it is almost like having queer characters. First of all they do is be gay, and then and like it's so weird because like in real life, yes, like some people are flamboyant, some people are more masculine, some like people present however, but like who you want to sleep with is only a big deal because like when it becomes like a political issue. But for the most part nobody cares, and like even like internally you don't really care. It's just like I'd like to sleep with you, I don't want to sleep with you, and you live your life. But like I think it's part of like, because then there's like I'm thinking about like Euphoria and like how Nate, like I don't even really know what we're supposed to be taking away from Nate, but it's like toxic masculinity is going on with his character, and like he's attracted to Jules, but she, and then like
Andrew, how much Euphoria do you know?
None.
Okay, so this makes no sense to you.
Okay, well, Nate is in the closet ish, I guess, and like has and like
so there's a point in the show where he starts developing a relationship with Jules, who is a trans girl, and I'm trying to remember, does Nate know right away that she's trans, or does he like figure out and then he starts having his identity crisis?
I really don't know. I think everyone on the show understands that Jules is trans. I believe. Because like Jules never says it to anybody, and like it's pretty.
But everyone knows.
I think because like I only figured it out because like they show her taking like HRT sometimes, but otherwise like they don't really talk about it that much. But then like with Nate, because like he's captain of the football team and all this stuff, but then like this isn't like they took Nate to like the villainous extreme, but like I've seen this trope in lots of other things where it's like, yeah, I'm the football guy on the outside, but really I just want to collect Beanie Babies and cry, like, or whatever. But like I feel like you can like boyish things sometimes
and still
too.
Be queer.
That's kind of my point. Where like I like I said, I like hunting, I like fishing, I like guns. I'm in the fire academy doing one of the most, arguably one of the most masculine jobs in our society. Sorry, training to do one of them. You know what I mean?
Legally, we can't say this yet.
I'm not.
Maybe by the time this comes out, then you will be done.
Disclaimer: I am not a firefighter. Please do not smoke me, instructors, if you find this.
This is coming out in June. You'll be done by then.
Yeah, Roger. But at the same time, like I play Dungeons and Dragons. I like to write. Traditional. Well, I don't know if I'd call Dungeons and Dragons a stereotypically feminine activity. It's usually been the opposite, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But
you're able to be like
multifaceted.
Like you're like not to get like super like mushy.
I'm able to be a real life human being.
Yeah.
Just because I think the funniest one of like the funny examples is Karina was writing a paper on the Oka crisis, which for those uninitiated was essentially a clash between you call them First Nations in Canada, right?
The First Nations, Indigenous, like kind of sort of interchangeable, but the video is not on Indigenous politics. But like if you say either or, it's fine.
Roger. And the Canadian government, in short. Vast oversimplification, but it's not what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and
that's for another episode.
Yeah, and it was this one picture of a Indigenous man like holding up a rifle, and Karina was like, "Oh, what gun is this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's an SKS, and I have one. Like I own that rifle." And
you sent me a picture of it, and I'm like, "Why is this in your house?" And you're like, "Just cause."
I'm cleaning it. But yeah, so it's like like, yes, I am that guy. Say what you want about it. Like, there are opinions to be had. They're generally valid. I understand why people think what they think. I may disagree, but
Yeah.
But I'm that guy. But I'm also the guy who wants to, write about.
I think like you being interested in like historically masculine activities doesn't negate the fact that you have the ability to be this kind and compassionate and understanding and gentle man. Like that's it, like these two things shouldn't be like one or the other. Like you can be both, and it doesn't, you don't sacrifice your masculinity because of that.
And I personally think that being gentle and being, empathetic is an important part of masculinity. Because, traditionally, and this is getting more into not LGBT issues, but like traditionally, masculinity has been like, providing, protecting, that sort of thing, which isn't all, muscles and violence. That comes up, and I think it's there's a phrase that comes up sometimes that says you can't be peaceful unless you are capable of violence. If you aren't, you're just harmless. And I think that is a important part of masculinity. You have to be capable of protecting the people that you love and yourself, but you have to understand that that type of behavior has its place and that it comes up very rarely. And it's important to be empathetic and kind and understanding. And I think where a lot of toxic masculinity comes in is separating those two and making empathy, understanding, and care, and putting that into a feminine box, when in reality that's just human nature.
Yeah, I think that's something too, like when I think people still do it now, but like when it first started with like commentary channels reviewing like alpha bros and all those self-help
men with microphones.
Well, like not even just the ones who are like, women have vaginas, ew, not
Ew,
those
gross.
guys, but like the ones who are like all buff and like, you want to be a man. Like the biggest takeaway from those is like, okay, like,
you're really insecure.
it's not even that though, but it's like, why is being masculine mean be like living such like a bitter, hard existence? Like, you're not a man unless you're like trudging through 20 ounces of snow every day.
We in the academy, in EMT school, which I've finished. And by God, if I get hired on where I'm applying, they're going to make me go through paramedic school, and I just want to break from school, man.
A break.
But they talk about it in EMT school. They've talked about it in the academy. Where like this extremely, like, you think of firefighters, you think like macho, muscular men doing macho, muscular things.
You think of the calendars.
Yeah, you see a lot of messed up stuff. A lot of it. I saw some messed up stuff during my clinical rotations during EMT school. Not even working as an EMT, just
getting your hours in.
Getting my hours in. Like, you see some messed up stuff. And used to be, they talked about this a bit today just because some stuff happened. Is not relevant. Used to be, it was very much that, and the military is still like this, that whole like, man up, toughen up, get thicker skin, well, that kind of attitude, that's toxic masculinity. That's like, we're not made for that. A human being, our brains are not wired to see other human beings in the situations that we are forced to see them in. And it affects you. And it's important to get help, to get, to lean on your buddies who have seen the same thing, to lean on, your command structure. And that's a relatively new change. And I know this seems like kind of a tangent, but even, you know, these guys that you're talking about who are all like, oh, you know, in order to be a man, you have to be fucking miserable all the damn time. A lot of them have lived, I mean, if you look into any of their backgrounds, they've lived extremely privileged lives. They've never had any sort of hardship ever, except for maybe, you know, oh no, girl not say yes to go on date with me, woman bad. So it's extremely easy for these men to look at themselves who have never had great hardship or trauma or injury or death, and see themselves as the embodiment of, you know, manly steel because they've never been put under any pressure.
No, I get that. That's good that you're not like that.
Sorry.
No, don't say sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be.
I just mean, like, that's kind of a tangent.
I think it's. I mean, well, we go on tangents all the time, but yeah,
it's really important to have those discussions, especially within like a context of, like, you know, we're talking about LGBTQ plus issues. It's important to talk about this because there's all this discussion on, like, you know, like toxic masculinity, like you were saying, but I don't think a lot of men know, and this goes for, like, you know, if you're queer, if you're straight, whatever, I don't think a lot of men know how to navigate positive masculinity or how to, like, be okay with being not hypermasculine all the time or being gentle or, like, whatever the case may be. It's important to be like, hey, you can be sad, you can be, like, you don't have to be like, I'm a man all the time, you know?
Yeah, like, feelings are valid.
Yeah.
And an important part of being strong, is my connection okay?
No, you're good, you're good.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
An important
You haven't roboted, so you're good.
Thank you. An important part of being strong, as it were, is dealing with feelings of weakness or feelings that you might perceive as weak in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a very anxious person. It's kind of become a running joke in the academy that I'm just nervous all the damn time. But instead of being ashamed of it, I examine why that is. Well, it's because I want to do well. I don't want to, you know, wash out. I want to become a firefighter. I want to do, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, how do you navigate from there? You go, well, if I want to do well, one, being nervous all the damn time is affecting my performance. It's not good for me, my health, or the safety of my teammates. So you need to get that shit in check. And getting it in check doesn't mean ignoring it and shoving it deep down so that it can't bother you anymore, because it's an unhealthy way of doing things. You develop healthy coping mechanisms, and I've had anxiety for a long time, so I have those coping mechanisms, but it takes a long time to develop them. So you just need to figure out a way to deal with your issues that isn't bottling them up or denying they exist or taking them out on other people, because that's where toxic masculinity really gets into its apex, where you don't know how to deal with your own shit and you start taking it out on other people.
No, I think that's really helpful. I think this little masculinity chat was really good. I'm glad that it happened. Okay, what are our next questions? I think there's like 2 left.
Yeah, so to kind of bring it back to the conversation about bisexuality, this is kind of what prompted me into, like, getting you in on this. So I know, just because you talked to me about this a couple days ago with like people at work, can if you feel comfortable with it, can you kind of talk a little bit about coming into contact with like negative stereotypes about being bisexual, and like specifically from like the male experience, because we talked pretty extensively about our experiences as queer women, and like, you know, we can touch base on that again if you need a starting off point.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, specifically with, you know, bisexual, it's, you know, and these are stereotypes, you know, promiscuity, unfaithfulness, you know, that sort of thing. And I've gotten kind of the, I'll say first off, like, I haven't really run into a lot of what I would call negative stereotype, or I suppose I would. I try very hard to take ignorance as ignorance and not malice.
Yeah.
And not be upset by it, and try to use it as a teachable moment. Because personally, in my opinion, we can get mad about ignorance all we want, but unless we take the time to educate people, things are never going to get better. And of course, you know, we can say, oh, you don't owe anybody your time or education, which is true. You don't owe anybody anything, but you also can't take that stance and expect things to ever get better.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, lecturing aside, a little, like, I had a conversation with another cadet who, you know, unfortunately is not in the academy anymore. He's a good guy. He was, I think, 28, married, had a kid, and we were just talking, and I don't remember how it got brought up, but it came up that I was bi, and he basically just asked me, you know, how does he was like, oh, well, you have a girlfriend, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, is she bi? And I was like, yeah, she is. And this was a while ago, but I say a while, it's only been like 7-8 weeks, but the thing that came up was, you know, he was like, oh, well, do you guys like hook up with other people? You know, the implication that, you know, we're swingers. And I was like, no, it's not something either of us are into. We, you know, it's a monogamous relationship, you know, like you're married, you and your wife don't swing, do you? And he's like, no. He said, like, if you were up for it, sure, but
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's neither here. That's his business, not mine. But I'm like, no, you know. He was like, well, why not? I'm just, well, it's not something that either of us are into. And he's like, well, but you both like men and women. Wouldn't it be like, you know, easy and kind of fun? I'm like, I guess from your perspective, sure, but it's not something that either of us are comfortable with or into or have any interest in exploring. It kind of just went, oh, okay, and the conversation kind of ended there. So I guess
like the presumption of like, oh, you're both bi, so like you must be having crazy wild threesomes all the time. Yeah. It's like, no.
Yeah. You also have to find, like, it's also interesting too, because it's like such a weird thing to say. Like, one, like, this guy doesn't know like the ins and outs of your relationship, but like the long distance part kind of hinders
that
orgies.
That kind of puts
but also I feel like finding swinging partners like is not like that easy. I don't think, because like
I wouldn't know, but I'd presume not. Most people are monogamous.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that it's easy.
So it's just I think that's not even like even a negative on that. I think it's just interesting, like how when like okay, so you added a new factor like, oh, this person is queer and I'm straight, so suddenly everything that I know about the world no longer applies to this person.
Now it's the Wild West. You just like have sex a whole bunch.
And like I said, I think it's like with any sort of, I think you can apply to racism, homophobia, what have you. A lot of it is just ignorance.
Yeah.
I don't think that I won't speak on racism because whatever. It's not my not my wheelhouse. But as far as homophobia goes, like some of the guys in class like said some shit that anybody on Tumblr or Twitter would like eviscerate them for, but. I know these guys. One, a lot of them are like 18, 19. They're stupid. They're teenagers. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, these are the idiots that are going to be pulling my ass out of a burning building if it comes down to it, and I trust them to do that. I had a conversation with one of these guys, like to get a little bit more on the conversational track again. One of the younger guys, I think he's 19, and we were joking around. I've told this to Karina. Like, you get like 12 like straight. Well, I mean, two of us aren't straight, but like 12, like 93% straight men in one room. The amount of homoeroticism in that room, especially if they're doing like a stressful or dangerous job, is just fascinating. I think I've had my ass grabbed more by straight men than anybody else. But whatever. I think because we had a conversation today where one of the guys was like, "Wait, so you actually like men?" And I was like, "Don't worry, Stallings, you didn't pay me to fuck you." And that's the dynamic. But I was talking to, if you could cut out his last name, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I had a conversation with one of the 19-year-olds, and he was just kind of like, well, how does that work? And I was like, being bi? And he's like, yeah, like how does that work? And he's like, well, I like, both men, and women. And he's like, how? I'm just like, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, I like women, I like men, and I told him, I have a preference for women. Like, I suppose I'm quote unquote less picky with my women. He's like, oh, so you're more straight than gay? And I'm like, I guess,
Yeah. Like, if that helps you.
I know that's not the best way to look at it. Like some people would call it harmful, but I think if if someone comes away with a better understanding of something, even if it's not 100% there, or if it's a little bit wrong, I think that's better than them remaining in ignorance.
Yeah, I do think there is something to be said about like where people are coming from, because like not everybody is really like mining through every sentence they say to look for and filter out people just say stupid stuff all the time, even if they're like older than 19. So I do think when you're talking to people in person, I think it is a lot easier to like understand the sentiment, in general. So like, I guess I can see why people would think stuff like that is harmful, but I guess I don't really even think it's that harmful to be like, you're more straight than gay or more gay than straight, like in that setting, just because like, as long as you're not putting more value on the straight thing, then I guess it's just kind of accurate.
He was just kind of trying to make sense of it in his head.
Yeah.
It was.
Like, I don't think he was like looking at it from the perspective of like, okay, well, you're bi, but at least you're in like a straight relationship. At least you're dating a woman, so like at least it's fine. I don't think that's where he was coming from.
Right.
One of the other guys asked and was like, "Oh, well, like who's the most attractive guy here?" And
me.
And funny because like I have an answer for that. Like I said, I'm not attracted to any of them, but like I can objectively say like, yeah, this guy is like a good looking dude. You know what I
think I know who it is just based on the nickname that the Firehouse gave him.
Yeah. He's either Buzz Lightyear or Daddy. But no, like I said, would I ever pursue any of these guys for a romantic or sexual relationship? God, no. You know, and that's the thing. A lot of people, like, especially straight men who have been, you know, living in ignorance of this sort of thing, have this idea in their head that, like, you know, they're like, oh, well, you know, if a man is attracted to other men, like, oh, what if he's attracted to me? Like, so the fuck what? Like, even if I was, like, and I think this is one of the reasons I haven't really run into problems, you know, being that I don't really make being queer part of my personality. It's not something that I super advertise. People generally don't find out until, like, I've known them for a little bit. And so by that point, I've established myself as like, oh, this is Andrew. Like, this is the stuff he likes. You know, he's a cool dude, or he's a dick, or what the fuck ever. Like, whatever they think of me. And then it's like, oh, well, he likes dudes. It doesn't really change anything. I'm the same guy as I've always been. You know, I have a girlfriend who lives in Canada, and they clown on me relentlessly.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that is the running gag. It's always Canada.
They're like, we don't care that Andrew likes dudes too. His girlfriend's in Canada.
Yeah, like, he pulled his hamstring 2 weeks ago. He's still on light duty. His girlfriend lives in Canada, and he's fat. We're gonna fucking clown on him. Like, that's like that's where we are. Like, me liking dudes, like, doesn't.
It's at the bottom of the list of things for you to get teased for.
Like, like, it's there. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's not like it's not malice.
Yeah.
It's precisely. It's like I'm the same guy as I've always been. It's just now it's like, oh, he likes dudes. Okay, cool. Whatever. You know.
I kind of have another question for you. So kind of on this flip side of, like, one side being like being treated poor, or like this idea that, like, oh, you're going to be treated poorly because people know that you're, like, interested in men as well. Have you experienced the opposite, where, like, people find out that you're, like, interested in men and they're like, oh, really? And, like, you're, like, kind of fetishized for it? Because I think
exclusively by straight women, yes.
Okay. Because, like, I think we've had discussions about this, and, like, it's usually, like, it's a chronically online take for, like, queer men to be like,
oh yeah, we shit.
Yeah.
What, like, okay, when you say that, like, straight women, like, fetishize you like that, like, they're just like just like the idea that, like, you kissing another boys on the table, or, like, what? I guess I know.
It's that kind of, like, this is have you ever seen, like, The Office? You know that
you know my answer.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, you know, that one episode where, like, Oscar is outed as gay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kelly is like, I didn't know you were gay. I always knew you had it in you. Like it's treated like some sort of,
oh, good for you.
Oh,
yeah, like
like that whole, like, oh my gosh, I love that for you thing. Okay, yeah, it's better.
I always wanted a gay best friend.
Yeah, it's like sort of virtue. It's like
yeah,
I don't know if it's like I'm suddenly, like, less of a threat, quote unquote, which, like, weird because I still like women more than men, but whatever.
You're a tenth less scared.
I'm still an asshole.
Like, I'm sorry. All I've gotten you to do is let your guard down. If anything, I'm more dangerous.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sorry. But it's this weird. It's this weird thing where it's like, you know, the whole, like, oh, I've always wanted a gay best friend. Oh, like, and again, it goes back to the early. They immediately start ascribing, these traditionally feminine traits onto me, or I'm like, nah, it's not who I am. Like, I don't like fucking clothes. Like, I don't. You've seen me. I dress like unless I'm forced to like be in uniform, I dress like a homeless man. I don't like makeup or drag race or whatever. Like I said, I'm the same as I've always been, but they always like.
Yeah, I think it's like on YouTube I've seen some people like with their coming out story, like this one creator, I don't remember, but he was talking about how like after he came out he started like, just like acting more effeminate. His family was like, you used to be more like a straight guy. What happened? And he was like, oh, well, I could like be my real me. But I feel like that's a lot of people's coming out story on YouTube, that people assume that's the default. And it's like, okay, so now that you let penis into your life, now we can like actually go to the mall together or whatever solutions they have.
Like, nah, bro. I want to go to the indoor range. They rent machine guns, and that's cool as shit.
No, I want to go camping.
Yeah, like I want to go camping and eat a deer. Like that's so who I am. I'm not suddenly going to start buying Jeffree Star palettes and.
We're not going to do that regardless because Jeffree Star's a horrible person.
Yeah, see, like I don't even know like the makeup community. The fact that there's like the fact that there's drama between makeup manufacturers is the weirdest thing to me. To me, that's like if I don't know, like Walmart and Costco had beef, which they're owned by the same corporation. We're not going to get, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. And that's what I'm saying.
Corporations and more like the people behind them. But again, that's neither here nor there. We've discussed this in other videos.
But I think that, and then the other thing you brought up that I've always found really fascinating, just because not unfortunately, but like I've just always been around like either like where nobody knew that I was queer or like everybody else was queer too, so just like literally nobody cared. But I think that's something I've always seen on TV, and it's not something I ever wanted, but it was always something that I was like worried I'd have to deal with, but just didn't, about people being like, oh my gosh, you're like being attracted to me is on the table for you. I don't want to have to turn you down or whatever. Which I think
I don't want you to pursue me. And it's like, bestie.
I think that's such a weird non-problem. Like,
if I was trying to sleep with you, you would know by now. It's not going to be a problem because I know, like, there are gay men who will be like, oh, like, it's fun to, like, get a straight dude drunk, and like, bro, that just sounds like rape, right?
Rape.
It just sounds like rape. But it's like, one, I know you're straight, like, and two, I know your personality. I know way too much about you to be attracted to you, motherfucker. Like,
yeah. Where have I heard that before?
Okay, well, listen, you're the exception to the rule. You get what I mean.
Fun fact about Andrew: he's a liar.
Yeah. All I do is lie. I'm neither from Texas nor man.
It's just me doing a different voice.
I'm just like a sea cucumbber.
But, this is actually our April Fool's video in the middle of
We've just been talking to an AI this whole time.
Just like, this is just Amazon Alexa with a male filter. But yeah, it's like, I have run into that, don't get me wrong, but it's been quelled very quickly. Like, it's not like, I got into like one fight in high school, and it wasn't even because I was queer. It's like a guy I already didn't get along with. We already hated each other, and like it was just like, oh, we were already going to fight, and he just started yelling slurs at me. Like, it's so it wasn't even like, oh, this is a hate crime. Nah. It's like, yeah, we were already gonna dish out, and he just decided to be,
like, I'm gonna say the F slur.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the F slur.
And you're like, I'm about to beat this bitch up.
Yeah.
Also, I told the story completely wrong yesterday, so I think it's only fair that we completely cut it from the video.
What did you say?
I thought it started out with like the guy was like being like, "Oh, I bet you can't beat my ass because like you're queer," and you're like, "Oh, bet," and then that's how the fight started.
No, we like this was like 6, 7, maybe, I don't know. Like many years ago. At this point, I'm 23 now. Like I graduated.
This was high school, Andrew.
This is high school, Andrew. But yeah, it was. I can't even remember why we didn't like each other. It's so ephemeral and meaningless now. But it was just like we didn't like each other. Like we were gonna fight. We fought. He just found out that I was queer, and he just went, oh, fuck, slurs.
But did you win?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yay!
As much as you can win in a high school fight. Like, high school fight, you end up on the ground kind of just like wrestling with each other. It's not like I like one of those,
Andrew, just leave it at you won. Leave it at you won.
One of those. It wasn't one of those World Star videos where it was just like one single punch that goes to the ground. Nah, it was like everything.
Just say you won.
In my high school one day, there was a rap battle between two very white boys, and it was like a really like rich area anyway, so like they were like rapping about like their problems, and I was just standing there and like there was
like, besties, I'm in a cult. Shut up.
Like, I didn't know that part yet.
You didn't get to that point.
I wasn't there. It was just so funny because like I just started being friends with like the boys at this rap battle, and then it happened and everybody was like, come on, they're going, and I was like, okay. So then I went, and then I was like, oh, okay, I think that one won, but he didn't win. No one else agreed with me. It was very funny because I don't know, it was just like the other one just yelled more, but I was like, that guy, like, they rhymed more, but I don't know what we're
top 10 rappers Eminem is afraid to diss.
Call me awful. I do like Eminem.
Of course, you can't not like Eminem.
I like Eminem. I think even for like, I think there's lots of rappers that I like that I'm like, okay, like I don't agree with like half your tweets or whatever. And Born Nana lives in my head rent free now. But aside from that, Eminem did a lot of good. I don't think he's lived long enough to be the villain just yet.
Listen, any bad thing that Eminem has never done is taken completely off the table because he clowned Machine Gun Kelly so hard that he switched music genres, and I will forever be grateful for that. Fuck Machine Gun Kelly.
I'm just thinking of Born Nana now. Okay, next question.
Sorry to continue. You continue.
Oh no, I was just saying, but yeah, like as far as hardships, trademark, quote unquote, whatever.
Hardships with a lowercase h.
Yeah, like there's been the like, oh, you're gay, like, oh, don't be gay towards me, bro, and like don't even fucking worry about it.
Like, done and done.
We're gonna say for a lot. I'm so sorry to whoever ends up editing this.
It's fine. Now that I'm like out of the cult, I don't really care that much anymore.
Yeah, that viewers, kind of friends, is gonna say the F word.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. But yeah. So next question, I guess.
Do we have any more before it's like the big like last question?
I mean, I feel like we're good.
I'm trying to think if I have any more.
Yeah. What's your social security number?
293.
You know how you've been thinking I've been a Fed for the last 2 years? Well, guess what?
That's why you asked me to build that sawed-off shotgun. I knew it. But
okay. So I kind of do have a question now. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
So what's up? What's your question?
Oh, okay. Stop it. So, something that we dipped our toes into, pre, can you, that we talked about was we have kind of noticed this double standard between like men who are bi and women who are bi, and just like how they're kind of viewed outside of the queer community and then kind of within the queer community as well. Is there anything that you have kind of noticed that like has piqued your interest or like made you think?
So, Karina, you and I have spoken about this a little bit. I don't necessarily associate myself with the LGBT community much. One, because I don't like there's just aren't a lot of queer spaces where I live because most people are like me. It's just not something that we like openly just like we just don't care.
Yeah.
And also just because most of like those that do exist are filled with people I can't stand. Not just because our personalities don't click. I find them annoying. That's all. Like nothing against them as people. I just don't want to spend time.
That's not your vibe.
Yeah, it's just not my vibe. Because like you go to an LGBT space, and at least in my experience, it's like a space where you be LGBT, and I'm like, I don't care about that. I want to hang out with cool people. Like I don't care that you like women. I don't care that you're like that's good for you, and I'm glad that you know that about yourself and you're living your best life. But can we just like play some Halo or something? I don't care.
We're in this space because it's a safe space for us because we know we're not gonna like get hate crimed, but we don't need to like spend our entire time here talking about being gay. Like we're here for a reason. We're in this space for a reason.
That kind of reminds me of like one of the other Dawson's Creek arcs that I was thinking we could potentially do at some point.
Oh, is this what we watched?
Did I? I think so. With
like, oh, I just came out and like goes to like a
he goes to like this this like coffee shop. He like and he didn't even say anything, but then like the guy who's in charge of it is like, so why are you here? First, he didn't want to go. His friend was just like, you need more gay friends, and drags him there when, like, he really didn't need that. But then he was just like, oh, I'm just sitting here. And then he basically gets attacked for not being, like, outraged enough. And I was like, and then just what you reminded me of.
I'm great presenting, so they just beat me with sticks.
That reminds me of one of my friends, and like Andrew, you know this friend, was out with her friends and was going to like a bar on campus that was like was a queer space, and she and her friends, who are all lesbians by the way, roll up into this establishment, and this little twinky white dude was sitting at the bar, turned around, looked at them and point and went, "Get out of our space!" And they're like, "We're faggots, like get lost."
Jesus. I've heard that's like damn, I've had a train of thought. It died. Like I've heard that is an issue of like gatekeeping within the community. Like you're not like, and again, that's one of the reasons I don't associate myself with like LGBT spaces, because I've been made to feel I'm not LGBT enough, and I feel like, some of it is politics. Like I said, I like hunting.
I think it is weird. Like, like you have all these interests, and it's so funny because there are so many videos about like queer guys who are basically like looking for you essentially, and they can't find guys like you anywhere.
Like the mask for mask thing, and then like they're like, oh, but not like this. It's like, well, then what do you want?
it's just interesting because like lots of they're like I want a guy who's into guys but basically a straight dude, but then like
Find one and you exclude them from the community.
You want a masculine dude who's into masculine shit, but when I take you to the gun range, you go, I don't know.
Don't like that.
yeah.
Which, like, fair enough. Like, if you're not into it, fine. But like,
Don't say you want this and then be like,
don't say you want to ride this ride and then get uncomfortable when I ask you to break a dove's neck.
Andrew, I think you could have picked a different example. This could have been the opportunity for you to talk about fishing again. Because I don't like that.
Bob wants to take me to a gun range one day. I'm just really scared of guns.
Okay.
So...
Oklahoma trip, let's do it.
Okay. So, I this is a tangent. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. It is a tool, and this isn't me like going on a program rant. This is me trying to like alleviate your fears. So like anybody who's listening to this, I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just trying to like, I've grown up around firearms. I own several. I'm familiar with their operation and how to be safe with them. The thing's not gonna shoot unless you pull the trigger. Besides, like a PT, and then you might drop it. But that's a different thing. So I'm sure. So who wants to take you?
Oh, Bob.
Yeah. So I'm sure he knows, basic gun safety.
Oh no, he's never done it before. He just wants to do it too. He's curious.
Oklahoma trip. We have an activity now.
Yeah.
I joked about bringing my guns to the Oklahoma trip.
You're not allowed to do that.
No.
I'm telling you, you are not allowed to do that.
It was a joke.
I will not be sharing a room with you if you do this.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But, basic gun safety, keep your finger off the trigger till you're ready to fire. Always assume a gun is loaded. You know it's not. Don't point it at anything that you're not willing to destroy or kill.
Oof.
It's like, don't get me wrong. It is a thing that you can, like, if you screw up with it, it can cause some damage, but that's no different than, say, an axe or like a nail gun or something.
I don't use those either.
Well,
I'm just a scaredy cat.
But you just gotta. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, well, if we do find a range in Oklahoma, maybe we could.
You will, trust me.
Yeah, no, it's so sad. When we're driving on the freeway, I don't know, like, there are no arrows pointing to where this is, but sometimes we would get on the freeway and, like, I think they just put them up at some point and then didn't take them down, but it'll just be like, OKC gun show, and I'm like, where? That's all it's these little things, these little small things, just all those grass by the freeway. I don't know where it is.
I have been, like, there's always, like, every couple of months there's a gun show in my hometown, because we have this big, like, I'm not gonna give away exactly where I live, because I'm sure if you knew the general region in which I live and I told you where this is, you'd know exactly where I live. But like, I always want to go, which is dumb because gun shows are always kind of the same thing. It's like some, boomer selling, Mosin Nagants for like $800 because he thinks that's what they're worth. And he's like, I don't know what I got, Sonny. Literally, it's always like that. But it's always like one weekend, and it's always the weekend of doing stuff. And it's always, I just want to look at military surplus. That's my thing. It's one of the things I collect gas masks and shit. Karina knows this.
Yeah, you sent me one for Christmas.
I sent her a gas mask for Christmas one year. It's a good one.
How am I supposed to use this?
You don't. I sent you the manual.
Babe, do you think I read it? I can't read. I put it on, and I was like, this probably works.
In the event of total atomic annihilation, Vault Tech.
Yeah. That'd be, you know what? That'd be a fun surprise if, like, you had, like, taken the time to, like, make it a Vault Tech manual.
That's a good idea. That's such a good idea, man. Who?
You write that down for Christmas.
Yeah, I'll write it down. But honestly, Zach, if on the Oklahoma trip, like anybody else feels like, or even like on a day where like everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do something. If like you, Bob, me, Karina, double date it, whatever, I don't care. Want to go to a range, like I'm totally down for that.
All right, I'll let him know. He'll be excited, I think. But okay, so now to bring it back, we'll wrap this. This is, on one hand, you got to know Andrew, people listening.
Yeah,
so I think,
I feel like this last section we might have to cut, but I don't know.
I mean, an active bonus content for the bonus content.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This will leave Patreon.
We'll see what Bob's. We'll see what it comes out at the end once Bob's done with it.
Yeah.
But okay, if you could say anything to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, what would anybody say to me?
In this context?
Yeah, about being bi, I guess.
In context of being bi, shit. I mean, I don't really think I'd have done anything different. Just like, hey, keep on keeping on, as generic as it sounds, nothing wrong with it. You're not. That's the thing. I've never really struggled with it. It's, which, lucky me.
Yeah. Any advice for any potentially bi guys out there like you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you have a preference, that's fine. So do I. That's completely normal. I think most people do. I think having a legitimate, like, just perfect 50-50 split, I like men, I like women, I think that's actually more rare than having a preference. I don't have data to back that up. My source is that I made it up.
My sources trust me.
My source, it came to me in a dream. But that's completely normal. You're not less bi because of it. You're not secretly straight. You're not secretly gay. You're not secretly confused about your gender. That has nothing to do with this. That might be a separate thing. Like you may be, but that might be completely separate. Like this is just it's a natural part. Like especially if you're young, being not knowing who you are, not knowing what you want, is completely natural. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life until I was 22 years old. Which, and frankly, that's like getting my shit together rather early, in my opinion. So if you're young, brother, you don't have to have this shit figured out. I'm telling you right now. It may feel like you do, especially, as a man in this world. A lot of times you're going to be made to feel like you're wrong for what you are, like you're at fault for things that you haven't done, and that's wrong. And the important thing is that you recognize that you recognize if there are qualities within yourself that are an issue, that you deal with them healthily, and that you don't let people and their perceptions of what a man should be color what kind of man you are. I think that, yeah, I mean, to bring it back to like an LGBT context, just, you don't got to have yourself figured out. Shit, you may be thinking, hey, I might be bi, I might be gay, I might be whatever, and later you decide, no, not really, I'm not. That's fine. You know, maybe maybe you are straight. Shit, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like I said, especially if you're young, you're going to be confused about a lot of shit, and that's fine. I guess that's my biggest thing. You don't have to have things figured out. You know, don't let other people tell you what you need to be or what being a man is, because that's something you need to figure out for yourself. What kind of man you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, what you want to do. It's hard out there right now for us boys, but you'll make it. I promise.
Oh, that was so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for coming to talk with us, Andrew. And thank you guys for listening. Leave comments below with whatever. And remember to comment, like, and subscribe, because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.